Truth, Belief and Reality, by Aslan Adnan, M.A. Sunday, the 12th of July 2026. My formulation connects closely with George Kelly's personal construct theory, but it also raises an important philosophical distinction between truth as correspondence with reality and truth as a useful human construction. The statement, "I believe in truth. Truth is what I choose to believe to be true," can appear, at first glance, to be a form of relativism or even a tautology. What I believe is true because I believe it. But my clarification changes the meaning. I am not saying that belief alone creates truth. I am saying that human beings must select, interpret, and commit to beliefs through evaluative criteria. In Kelly's framework, a person does not passively receive reality. Instead, the mind constructs models of reality through personal constructs, mental frameworks that help us anticipate events and navigate the world. Kelly proposed that a good construct system is judged by three major qualities. Permeability. A construct is permeable if it can absorb new experiences and accommodate new evidence. A belief system that cannot change regardless of evidence becomes rigid and insulated from reality. For example, a scientific theory is strong, partly because it allows modification when new observations appear. A rigid ideology that rejects all contrary evidence lacks permeability. Range of convenience. This refers to how broadly a construct can be applied. A useful idea should explain and organize a meaningful range of experiences, rather than being narrowly applicable to only one situation. A theory that explains many observations has a wider range of convenience than one that explains only a small number of isolated events. Predictive efficiency. This is perhaps the most important test. A belief system should help us anticipate outcomes accurately. A model of reality earns credibility because it allows successful prediction. Science, for example, derives much of its power from predictive efficiency. Physics predicts planetary movements. Genetics predicts inheritance patterns. Epidemiology predicts disease trends. A belief that consistently fails to predict reality eventually loses credibility. Therefore, my statement can be interpreted not as, "Truth is whatever I decide it is," but rather, "The truths I accept are the constructs I choose after testing their ability to accommodate experience, explain reality, and predict future events." This position has similarities with pragmatism, particularly the ideas of William James and Charles Sanders Peirce, who argued that beliefs gain legitimacy through their practical consequences and their ability to survive inquiry. However, there is a critical philosophical boundary. A belief can be useful without necessarily being true. For example, an ancient civilization might have believed that illness was caused by spirits. The belief could provide psychological comfort and social structure, but it had limited predictive efficiency compared with germ theory. A false map may still help someone navigate a familiar route, but a more accurate map will perform better when circumstances change. Thus, predictive success is evidence for truth, but philosophers debate whether usefulness is identical to truth. A more rigorous formulation might therefore be, "Truth is not merely what I choose to believe, it is what I choose to believe after subjecting my beliefs to tests of permeability, range of convenience, and predictive efficiency." My chosen truths are provisional models that remain open to correction by experience. This places my view closer to fallibilism, the recognition that humans can pursue truth while accepting that any particular understanding may later be refined or overturned. In this sense, the scientist and the philosopher share the same discipline, not defending what they believe but constantly testing whether what they believe deserves to survive. Thomas Kuhn's concept of paradigms. Thomas Kuhn, 1922 to 1996, in his seminal 1962 work The Structure of Scientific Revolutions, introduced the concept of paradigms as a central framework for understanding the historical development of science. A paradigm, according to Kuhn, refers to a shared constellation of beliefs, values, techniques, and assumptions that defines the legitimate problems and methods of a scientific community during a given period. It functions as an overarching conceptual framework that shapes how scientists perceive reality, formulate questions, and interpret data. Normal science and the role of paradigms. Within an established paradigm, scientific activity primarily consists of normal science. This involves puzzle solving. Researchers apply the dominant framework to extend its explanatory power, refine measurements, and address minor anomalies through incremental adjustments. The paradigm provides a stable foundation that enables focused, cumulative progress. For instance, Newtonian mechanics served as a paradigm that guided physics for centuries, allowing scientists to predict planetary motion and mechanical phenomena with high precision. Kuhn emphasized that paradigms are not merely theories but include implicit metaphysical assumptions and methodological commitments. They determine what counts as valid evidence and what problems are deemed worthy of investigation. Anomalies, crises, and paradigm shifts. Paradigms are inherently resistant to easy modification, exhibiting a degree of rigidity. Over time, persistent anomalies, observations that cannot be reconciled within the existing framework, accumulate. These anomalies initially may be dismissed or addressed through ad hoc modifications. However, when they become too numerous or significant, they precipitate a crisis within the scientific community. During such crises, competing alternative frameworks emerge. A scientific revolution occurs when one paradigm supplants another. Classic examples include the transition from the Ptolemaic geocentric model to the Copernican heliocentric system, or from classical physics to Einstein's relativity and quantum mechanics. These shifts are not purely logical or evidence-driven in a simple cumulative sense. They involve a fundamental change in the scientific worldview. Kuhn described such transitions as involving incommensurability. Paradigms are not directly comparable because they redefine key terms, problems, and standards of evidence. Proponents of competing paradigms may literally see the world differently, making rational choice between them partly a matter of persuasion, community consensus, and the new paradigm's ability to resolve the anomalies more effectively. Implications for truth, belief, and scientific progress. Kuhn's model challenges the traditional view of science as a steady, objective accumulation of truths. Instead, scientific progress appears discontinuous, with periods of stability punctuated by revolutionary transformations. This perspective aligns thematically with elements of the essay on truth, belief, and reality I shared, particularly George Kelly's personal construct theory. Both emphasize that human understanding involves constructed models rather than passive reception of reality. Kuhn's paradigms can be viewed as collective constructs that possess qualities analogous to Kelly's criteria: permeability, openness to revision, range of convenience, breadth of application, and predictive efficiency, yet they often demonstrate inertia until crisis forces re-evaluation. Like the pragmatic and fallibilist positions discussed, Kuhn underscores that scientific beliefs are provisional. However, he introduces a sociological dimension. Paradigm acceptance depends not only on predictive success but also on community dynamics, training, and shared exemplars. Critics of Kuhn, such as Karl Popper, argued that this view risks relativism by downplaying falsification and objective progress. Others have noted that Kuhn may have overstated the degree of incommensurability, as scientific change often involves elements of continuity. In summary, Kuhn's paradigms illuminate how scientific communities organize knowledge and navigate uncertainty. They highlight the interplay between stability and transformation in the pursuit of reliable models of reality, offering a nuanced complement to individual construct systems and pragmatic evaluations of belief. This framework remains influential in philosophy of science, history of science, and broader discussions of knowledge and belief formation. Comparison of Thomas Kuhn and Karl Popper in the philosophy of science. Thomas Kuhn and Karl Popper represent two influential yet contrasting perspectives in 20th century philosophy of science. Popper, 1902–1994, is best known for his falsificationist methodology, while Kuhn, 1922–1996, developed a historical and sociological account centered on paradigms. Their views address core questions of scientific progress, the nature of theory choice, and the relationship between belief and evidence, offering complementary insights relevant to discussions of truth, belief, and reality. Karl Popper's falsificationism. Popper rejected inductivism, the idea that science builds knowledge through the accumulation of confirming observations. Instead, he proposed that scientific theories are bold conjectures that must be subjected to rigorous attempts at falsification. A theory is scientific only if it is falsifiable, meaning it makes risky predictions that could, in principle, be contradicted by empirical evidence. Scientific progress occurs through a process of conjecture and refutation. Scientists propose hypotheses, deduce testable consequences, and seek to disprove them. Theories that survive severe tests gain corroboration but are never proven true. They remain provisional and open to future refutation. Popper emphasized critical rationalism. Science advances through continuous criticism and the elimination of error. He viewed dogmatic adherence to theories as unscientific. This framework aligns with a fallibilist stance, where knowledge grows by weeding out false beliefs rather than by accumulating absolute truths. Thomas Kuhn's paradigm-based model. As outlined previously, Kuhn described scientific development as alternating between periods of normal science and revolutionary change. A paradigm serves as a shared framework of theories, methods, and assumptions that defines legitimate problems and solutions. During normal science, scientists engage in puzzle solving within the dominant paradigm, treating anomalies as puzzles to be solved rather than immediate threats. Significant anomalies accumulate, leading to crises and, eventually, paradigm shifts when a new, competing framework gains community acceptance. Kuhn introduced the concept of incommensurability. Competing paradigms may redefine key terms and standards, making direct comparison difficult. Paradigm choice involves persuasion, problem-solving capacity, and community consensus rather than purely logical adjudication. Kuhn's model highlights the social and historical dimensions of science, portraying it as less continuously critical than Popper suggested. Key comparisons. 1. Methodology and scientific activity. Popper advocated perpetual criticism and falsification attempts, even during periods of apparent success. Kuhn, by contrast, argued that normal science is relatively dogmatic. Scientists work within the paradigm, suppressing or sidelining anomalies to maintain productive puzzle solving. For Kuhn, premature criticism could hinder progress. For Popper, it is essential. 2. Nature of progress. Popper envisioned cumulative, though provisional, progress through error elimination. Kuhn described discontinuous progress via revolutions, where old paradigms are replaced rather than incrementally refined. This leads to debates on whether Kuhn's view implies relativism, as paradigms are not judged by a neutral external standard. 3. Role of anomalies and evidence. Both recognize that evidence can challenge theories, but they differ in interpretation. Popper treated falsifying instances as decisive opportunities for rejection. Kuhn viewed anomalies as expected and often resolvable within the paradigm until a critical threshold triggers crisis. Predictive efficiency and accommodation of experience, qualities emphasized in George Kelly's constructs and the earlier essay, play roles in both, yet Kuhn stresses community dynamics and problem-solving breadth more prominently. 4. Implications for truth and belief. Popper's approach supports a clearer distinction between useful beliefs and truth, with emphasis on objective testing. Kuhn's perspective resonates with pragmatic and constructivist elements. Paradigms function as collective constructs evaluated by their explanatory and predictive power, remaining open to revision. Fallibilism. However, Kuhn's incommensurability raises questions about whether truth can be assessed independently of the prevailing framework, a concern Popper would likely reject in favor of intersubjective criticism. Critics of Popper argue his model is overly idealized and does not match historical practice. Critics of Kuhn contend that his account underplays rationality and risks relativism. Later philosophers, such as Imre Lakatos, sought syntheses through research programs that incorporate elements of both. In relation to the themes of truth, belief, and reality, both thinkers support the view that beliefs should be selected and tested for permeability, range of convenience, and predictive efficiency. Popper provides a stricter methodological norm for individual and collective inquiry, while Kuhn illuminates the sociological realities of how scientific communities actually operate and transform their constructs. This comparison underscores the tension between idealized rationality and historical contingency in the pursuit of reliable models of reality.
The author has placed this work in the public domain. It may be freely imported, exported, shared, distributed, edited, modified, or reformatted without explicit consent from the author. As a visually impaired person, the author asserts his rights under the Marrakesh Treaty to facilitate access to published works for persons who are blind, visually impaired, or otherwise print disabled. 2013, WIPO.int.
Early bird registration for my September 5th event is valid until July 31st for a minimum donation of 150 ringgit. Made before July 31st, you can attend my September 5th event. All proceeds for all your donations will be used not just for your meal for the day, but also for my various eye treatments and sponsoring some persons with disability to attend the event. From July onwards, it will be 150 ringgit until the end of July. Then in August, it will go up to 200 ringgit. Thank you.
How to attend Aislan Adnan's Meet the Author Luncheon at the Hungry Tapir, 135 Petaling Street, Kuala Lumpur, short walking distance from the Pasar Seni MRT LRT station, from 12:30 hours, Saturday, 5th September 2026.
Step 1. Download all my 30+ books on nutrition for free from Z Library using this URL. However, there is a limit of 10 downloads a day from Z Library. The workaround is to download them, and 2,250 plus others, from my Optimal Health Community Telegram broadcast channel at EPUB Electronic Publishing. All my free ebooks are published in .EPUB electronic publishing format. If you are still living in the dark ages and only know .PDF, portable document format, and never heard of .EPUB, don't worry. You are about to have a mind-blowing experiential learning journey. If you use an Apple device, .EPUB files open in the Books app. If you are an Android user, use Universal Book Reader or a similar app. If you need further instructions on how to read .EPUB documents, just ask your favorite AI app to teach you. If you have never used an AI app before, start with Grok, Gemini, or ChatGPT. Then move on to DeepSeek, Claude, or Kling later.
Step 2. I have put all my books in the public domain, and you may share them freely. In fact, I strongly implore you to do so. Viralize them, make sure they reach every person who needs the knowledge contained in them. In Malaysia, the most recent data from the National Health and Morbidity Survey 2023 shows that 21.8% of adults are obese and 32.6% are overweight. This means the total combined rate is 54.4% of adults. Scary huge percentages of Malaysians are diabetic or suffer from other non-communicable diseases, NCDs. To be specific, in Malaysia, about 15.5% of adults have chronic kidney disease, CKD, up from 9.1% in 2011. Around 21.4% of adults aged 30 and above are at high risk of cardiovascular disease, CVD. Among older adults, about 8.5% have dementia, equating to roughly 260,000 people as of 2022. A nation is only as strong as its human capital. How strong can a nation be if more than half its population is fat, sick, and nearly dead? Of what good can you be to your family if you are fat, sick, and nearly dead? You owe it to yourself to be the best version of yourself that you can possibly be.
Step 3. Read the books, follow whatever advice that makes sense to you. If something doesn't make sense to you, or causes cognitive dissonance, you can ask me clarifying questions on the 5th of September. Also, be prepared to report on the 5th of September what improvements in your health you have noticed. So far, one person has seen her total cholesterol level drop from always above 5 to 4.6. Another has resolved a chronic constipation issue. I have written 2 books on human stool classification and stool analysis. Another person who wakes up every morning with a white layer of mucus on her tongue for more than half her life, now wakes up with a clear tongue. Step 4. Make the minimum donation by the required dates. The longer you prevaricate, the higher the minimum donation gets. Minimum donation per pax: 100 ringgit for donations received by June 30th, 150 ringgit for donations received by July 31st, 200 ringgit for donations received by August 31st, 500 ringgit for donations received by the 5th of September and for walk-ins. Places are limited. However, I do not wish to deprive anyone. If enough people register, we can take over the whole restaurant, so make your donations early to reserve your place. Purpose: Your donations will go towards sponsoring persons with disability, PWD, to attend the event and also towards my various ongoing eye treatments. Sponsorship. If you run a business and wish to promote your business, you can sponsor door gifts, gift vouchers, or even cash.
A writer and researcher in nutrition science, Aslan has authored dozens of books on plant-based bioactives, antioxidants, and the chemistry of whole foods. In this session, he will lead a dynamic Ask Me Anything on Nutrition session. All 30 of his nutrition books are in the public domain and are downloadable at the link below. Attendees must read these books in advance and come prepared with their questions. This is a singular chance to engage with one of today's leading independent nutrition thinkers. Don't miss it. A healthy, whole food, plant-based lunch with the menu curated by Aslan Adnan will be served. No need to write your name in the reference of the bank transfer, as it will automatically be displayed, but include your phone number in case we need to contact you for any last-minute changes.
We will also celebrate Aslan's 68th birthday.
Some of you have been wondering why a YouTube channel devoted to green political philosophy and ideology would address health issues. The stark facts are these. Data from the National Health and Morbidity Survey in Malaysia 2023 shows that 54.4% of adults are either overweight or obese, with 32.6% classified as overweight and 21.8% as obese. Abdominal obesity, per Roque-Boroy, was also reported at 54.5%. Compared to 2011, the combined prevalence of overweight and obesity has increased from 44.5% to 54.4%. According to the same survey, 15.6% of adults in Malaysia have been diagnosed with diabetes, kencing manis. Additionally, about 21.4% of Malaysian adults aged 30 and above have a high 10-year calculated risk of developing cardiovascular disease, CVD, sakit jantung. In Malaysia, precise prevalence data for diagnosed CVD is somewhat limited. Data from 2010 to 2021 indicated that 16.6% of all registered deaths were due to CVD. A 2015 survey found that 14.1% of working-age adults had diabetes, 24.5% had hypertension, and 45.9% had high cholesterol. The World Heart Federation also noted in 2022 that around 11% of deaths in Malaysia are linked to CVD. In 2011, the prevalence of chronic kidney disease, CKD, sakit buah pinggang, was 9.07%. A nationwide study in Malaysia in 2018 estimated that 15.48% of adults, over 5 million people, have CKD. It really is alarming. These numbers are striking, especially when you consider how rapidly they have grown over just a decade. It is a massive public health challenge. In light of these statistics, the implications for nation building and capacity building are stark. What value does a nation have if more than half its population are fat, sick, and nearly dead?
Are you fat, sick, and nearly dead? Well, if you think you're overwhelmed, you don't know where to start with this book. And then as you progress, you can, go deeper, take a deep dive into the other books. And if you want to meet me to discuss what you've read in the books, you have a chance in September to do so. However, there are 5 places already been taken up, and there are limited seats, so the sooner you register, the sooner you'll reserve a place for yourself. Attendance is by donation, so details are in the video.
Important note on event registration fees. Early bird. Donation received between the 1st and the 31st of July 2026. Minimum donation of 150 ringgits. Normal registration. Donation received between the 1st and the 31st of August 2026. Minimum donation of 200 ringgits. Late registration. Donation received between 1st to 5th September 2026. Minimum donation of 500 ringgits. All proceeds after deducting third-party costs will go towards Aslan Adnan's various ongoing eye treatments to hopefully reverse or at least arrest his macular degeneration, cataracts, photophobia, mydriasis, dry eyes, and etc. This is mission critical as, if his vision fails, he'll no longer be able to produce, edit, or upload videos. Your voluntary contributions and donations are a critical success factor. As such, your generosity, empathy, compassion, and kindness are well and truly appreciated. We thank you in advance for your invaluable help and assistance in making this event a resounding success.
About the author. Aslan Adnan, M.A., is a writer and independent researcher whose work focuses on nutrition science, food systems, and the biological foundations of human health. His writing examines how natural foods contain complex compounds that interact with human physiology in ways that may support long-term well-being. He has a particular interest in plant-based bioactive compounds such as polyphenols, carotenoids, flavonoids, and other phytochemicals found in fruits, vegetables, herbs, spices, algae, and fungi. His research explores how these compounds function in plants and how they may influence human nutrition when consumed as part of a balanced diet. Aslan approaches nutrition from a multidisciplinary perspective, drawing on biochemistry, plant biology, and public health nutrition. His work aims to translate complex scientific concepts into clear explanations so that readers can better understand the nutritional value of everyday foods. He is the author of several books examining natural sources of antioxidants and other dietary compounds. Author of the Antioxidant series, Antioxidants in Herbs and Spices, Antioxidants in Algae, Microalgae, and Fungi, Antioxidants in Fruits and Vegetables, Antioxidants in Nuts and Seeds, Antioxidants in Berries. Author of the Nutrient series, Macronutrients, Volume 1, Carbohydrates, Macronutrients, Volume 2, Lipids, Macronutrients, Volume 3, Proteins, Micronutrients, Vitamins, Trace Elements, and Minerals, Anti-nutrients, The Hidden Blockers in Your Food, Phytonutrients, The Quiet Power of Plants, Water, The Forgotten Fourth, a macronutrient you can't ignore. Other books on health and nutrition. Tuber's Briefing Paper, 2nd edition. Aslan's 5-Powder Manifesto. Eating the Greek Way, How Cultural Habits Support Health Without Trying. Ideology on a Plate, How Robert F. Kennedy Jr. Turned U.S. Dietary Guidelines into a Scientific Farce. Maslow in 2026, A Practical Guide to Actual Needs, Not Scrollable Wishes. These works form part of an ongoing series exploring the chemistry, biological roles, and nutritional significance of bioactive compounds in plant foods. Through his writing, Aslan advocates a practical food-first approach to nutrition. His work emphasizes whole foods, dietary diversity, and balanced eating patterns, rather than reliance on isolated nutrients or supplements. He holds a Master of Arts in International Business and Management from the University of Westminster in London, and writes extensively on nutrition science, health, and food-based approaches to long-term well-being. Aslan Adnan, the quiet revolutionary of real food writing. Aslan Adnan, M.A., is a Malaysian polymath who spent decades turning food into philosophy. Raw, unfiltered, no hype. You won't find him pushing superfoods or miracle diets. He dissects what actually works. Whole plants, spices, microbes, and the quiet chemistry that keeps bodies humming. With over 30 books, self-published, shared freely on Z-Library, Facebook groups, Telegram channels, Aslan's output is prolific. Part manifesto, part manual. Early works like Spring Has Sprung, a psychological thriller, and travelogues on the road to the East Coast reveal his roots in journalism, advertising, and storytelling. But nutrition became his mission. Educated with a Master of Arts in International Business and Management from the University of Westminster, London, he taught at the School of Management, Royal Holloway, London, while pursuing doctoral research in business strategy and environmental management, specializing in the international timber trade. That academic backbone, rigor, systems thinking, sustainability, bleeds into his food writing. No fluff, just evidence. The core series, the Macronutrients Trilogy, Volume 1 on carbohydrates, glucose, fiber, metabolism, Volume 2 on lipids, fats, omega-3s, inflammation. Volume 3 on proteins, repair, enzymes, muscle. Then micronutrients, water, and anti-nutrients, the plant world's double-edged sword. Anti-nutrients are naturally occurring compounds in whole foods, phytates, oxalates, lectins, goitrogens, that can bind minerals, block enzymes, or mess with absorption. They evolved as plant defenses, but in us, they steal iron from spinach, calcium from kale, or spike gut irritation from raw beans. Variety wins. 30 plants a week, not monodiets. Raw's romantic, but cooked smarter. Add spice blends like Aslan's 5-powder manifesto, turmeric mixes for real anti-inflammation, and you've got a library that says, eat wide, not weird. Why release it all into the public domain? Because knowledge isn't currency. It's oxygen. Aslan watched corporations gatekeep health, paywalls on papers, patented supplements, proprietary blends that hide what works. He refuses. His books aren't for sale. They're for spread. No DRM, no ads, no ego. Just files anyone can download, print, share. He says it plain. If one person in a kampong swaps white rice for brown or steams kailan instead of boiling it, that's the win, not royalties. He's no gatekeeper. His Facebook, Aslan Green Party, Instagram, and YouTube drop bite-sized truths. Traffic light WFPB guides, eye health talks on lutein, vegan journeys. He credits tradition, curries, forest mushrooms, seaweed from tides, and lives it. Unpeeled carrots, home ferments, no moralizing. 30-plus titles aren't about volume. They're depth. Carbs to phytonutrients, water to gut bugs. Aslan doesn't sell health. He hands you the tools. Read him and your plate changes. Not because you're broken, because you're built for better.
Subscribe button to show your support. Share your thoughts in the comments below. Don't forget to like this video and subscribe to our channel to show your support.